podcast. Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
The
Matthew
Not
Chin
So
here.
Perfect podcast.
Yes, Matthew Chin here with our world famous.
Gerardo Cornejo, Jeff City world famous.
Funny quick story. You know what my phone Siri says whenever I said call Gerardo Cornejo? It says calling Gerardo Carne Asada. And I don't know why, because your name is spelled correctly.
I have, in 42 years, I've not heard that one. Well, Gerardo Carne Asada fits me perfectly.
Thank Siri for that one. I can't take credit.
Gerardo Carne Asada. Remember that. That's hashtag. We own it now.
We'd like to give a shout out to all the carne asadas out there.
We roll deep. We roll deep.
That's right. Welcome back, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We got a very important topic this week.
Yeah, Matt reached out to me and
I had an idea for once.
Yeah, Matt had a brilliant idea as always.
Nah.
And we have a special weekend coming up. And
in lieu of that, our podcast for this week is going to be Father's Day. All the ups, the downs, the challenges, the intricacies of balancing and managing fatherhood.
So this is going to be a 13-hour podcast because we're going in.
Episode 1.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
Part 1 of many.
Yep.
Well, where should we go?
Well, I was kind of thinking, and I'll kind of lay out what I was thinking. And
here's I'm prepared for it. So
yeah.
Excuse me for
not
being perfect.
There might be some tears, but that's okay. So I'll just kind of talk about what I was thinking we could discuss, and then you can kind of point us in whatever direction we can.
Straight to it, baby.
Wherever. So just the different things I was thinking about fatherhood, talking about our dads, okay, where we learned about what it's like to be a father, what it's like to be a man and provide. And then from there we can kind of bounce into maybe your personal experiences and adventures in fatherhood and what all that takes.
So you're not experiencing fatherhood, right? That you know.
Last time I checked,
Matt.
no kids that I know of. So none of that.
My fatherhood journey began 12 years ago, but prior to that, 38 years of living with the world famous Jose Luciano Cornejo. Rest in peace, Tito. Carne Asada.
I was going to say, is that the
Mr. Carne Asada.
Is that the OG Carne Asada?
That's the OG Carne Asada. Yes, my dad was one of the COVID pandemic on patients or whatever we want to call them. But he passed away December 1st, 10 days before his birthday of 2020. So we've been experiencing 4.5 years now without him, but with him every second of our lives.
Yeah, rest in peace, Jose. But the good thing about that and the way I look at that kind of loss that's that impactful and traumatic is, because I've had, my dad's still alive, thank God. I'm very blessed to have him. But like when I lost my grandma and then my great uncle who was 96, 97, lived a very full life, but they're in a better place. Their quality of life had really suffered. So I mean, as much as we love them and we want them to be here, don't you want them to be as pain-free as possible?
Yeah.
Whether it be in this life or the next life. So I don't know, anytime I always get something that reminds me of them, I'll just it's just a time to look up and just kind of know that they're looking down on us.
Absolutely.
They're still present with me, even though they're not here physically.
And it goes to show, I don't know how I could put this in words, but how selfish we are after they pass, after they leave. I want them back. If we prayed, why my sister Linda, she has trouble with it. I prayed, and he still left.
Yeah.
Does prayer work? That's a deeper conversation or a deeper thing that my sister has to figure out because I just can't help. I can't help with that. But as soon as, again, the superhero you're living with, the rock of the family, the strongest man you've ever met, and then it just disappears. That was a very scary test for me. That immediately back to asking for help. The very day after, I scheduled a therapist appointment because nobody knows what to say.
Yeah.
I still don't know what to say to when somebody loses anything. There just are no words.
Yeah.
But I needed to talk to somebody who would give me guide, direction, and because not only is he gone, I no longer have him, but now I have my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to deal with all of that.
That
It just fell in line. It wasn't that hard.
And that kind of throws you into the patriarchy role, whether you wanted it or not.
Carne Asada Senior now.
Yeah, the OG the second.
Yeah, and it was a big role to step up to because, I mean, that is your biggest fear growing up, not having a parent. But when it happens, here we go. Like, the hardest part is how I was just telling Stacy, I was emotional about this the other morning because waking Jacob up, my son, to see their connection. So Jacob just turned 9, so 4 years ago. Jacob's first 5 years, him and my dad were just Velcro. Their little image, like they would see each other. It was the cool. As soon as they see each other, like they would just. It was just them, and that is so part of Jacob's memories, life, that he still misses them a lot, and that was his best bud.
Yeah.
For my dad to have a grandson, and that's one of my dad's. He always wanted to have a grandson, and he got him. Got to see him play soccer. They just got to be boys.
Yeah.
And it kind of brought my dad back to feeling like a child, being a child again with him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was towards the end. My dad was tired. Body was older. Bones were hurting. Knee surgeries here and there. We never thought he was that old or hurting because I just thought he was the strongest person ever. But I love when you were bringing up that you're not having conversations with your dad, because the last 2 years of me and my dad's relationship, I just went all in, and I was like, let's be best friends.
Yeah.
Tell me your stories. And I got to learn an entire, completely different side about my dad. And our culture, American culture, is kind of different that way. You say you love your parents, but they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
Not saying any culture is different than any other, but Hispanics were very close. We could all live together all of our lives.
Yeah.
But American culture, you separate, you go make your family. Matt, you go do your family. Stacy, you go and grow your family. But having your parents now, you're lucky.
Yeah.
That is, be fortunate for that, and go all in on the time you have now with your parents, because that's all you get is time.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm taking as much time as I can to appreciate the time I do have left with him. He's 71. He's got a whole slew of health issues and stuff, but he's a lot like me in a lot of ways, just in the fact that if the good Lord didn't have a plan for me, like, I would have been dead one of thousands of times before this, whether it be through just drinking, doing stupid shit, waking up in the hospital with your head cracked open, breaking your neck 2 separate times, and surviving and not being in a wheelchair, paralyzed,
You're
whatever.
a cat, Matt.
So I recognize that, just as strong as I think he is and always thought he was, he's got issues he's got to deal with too, and unfortunately, I say unfortunate, it's not that unfortunate. He'll tell you it's the worst thing in the world, but the doctors now want him to do walk a mile a day on the treadmill. And that's just where he really struggles. It's just he can walk, but he's got short spurts. He's got to rest, gets out of breath, that sort of thing. So for him to walk for, he's not walking fast. It's, it's maybe a 3-minute pace or 3 mile per hour pace. It takes him 20 minutes, or 24 minutes, however long it takes him to. And
He's doing it on a treadmill though?
Yeah.
Get him outside.
There
you go.
He needs to have. He's got to have stability. He gets out of breath to the point of exhaustion.
Okay.
He has very bad heart issues and stuff like that. So it's not like he's out of shape. He's just his heart.
Yeah.
The doctors have done everything for his heart. The rest of it is up to him to eat healthy, to exercise regular, all the things.
Are you talking about my father-in-law?
I don't think so. I don't know.
That's exactly who you're describing, man.
So
you're describing what my father-in-law is going through, man.
Yeah. But my dad's the toughest person I know, both mentally and physically. The doctors kind of look at him every time he goes back for a heart doctor or a vascularity test or whatever it is that he's going to see for his checkups. The way he tells the story, it's so funny because I'll ask him, hey, I heard you had an appointment with your heart doctor. How'd that go? Well, doctor was still shocked as hell that I'm still alive, but I'm here. So I guess I'll just keep doing whatever.
The chins are just bulletproof, ladies and gentlemen.
To die, that's the thing.
Chins never die.
Yeah, but no. So I take the time that I have, and I recognize that my time with him is limited. So I want to learn as much as I can from him. I want to hear his stories, and I think I told this on a podcast before, but just randomly talking to him on, it was after Trump's assassination attempt, I asked my dad, because, a lot of things could escalate. I asked him about if he was alive, or him and my mom were alive, and if they remember like when JFK got shot, and they did. And my dad, after telling that story, then started talking about how he got drafted to Vietnam, and what? You were in Vietnam? He said, no, I was drafted. Got on the bus heading up to St. Louis to fly out to wherever they were going to basic training, and by the time they got to St. Louis, like the draft ended. So my life could have changed significantly and might not even be here had, that not changed. But I didn't know that. And
So that he would have been a teenager at that time?
I think he was 18 or like 20, something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So he's 71 now, so that would be, I'm not going to do the math.
20. Teenager 20s.
I'll botch it, but he was young, and, but again, that could have changed. Like my brother wasn't born, I wasn't born, so I mean, we might not be here if that would actually taken place. So, again, something I didn't know about him, but asking questions, telling stories, you just find out a little bit more, and I'm happy to hear about him.
And now that you're older, and some of the stories you've shared about your dad, he didn't have it all figured out.
No. He had a very rough upbringing. Just that previous generation before us was harder than it is for us, and the previous generation before that one was even harder than that. But that's just. That's what they were. They were just hard people, and you had to be back then to survive. And that's not saying it was right or wrong. That's just how it was done. And, it's one of those things, and I haven't really talked to it in great detail, but like me and my dad did not get along for a large part of my, my teenage years and up into my early 20s. Largely due to the fact that I was young and dumb and didn't know what was going on in terms of what he was doing with his days, because we never got to really see him. I mean, we might see him an hour here, an hour there. But the truth of the matter was he was working 2 jobs. He was working 3rd shifts. He was working the night shift. He'd wake up, have to be at work at 11 p.m. and then depending on if they were working 8-hour shifts or 12-hour shifts, which majority of the time it seems like they were working 12-hour shifts, he'd be gone 11 to 11, and we'd be in school, so we wouldn't see him when he'd come back, and then he'd change clothes and he'd go out and work at the rental property and work there till 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, come home, eat, take a shower, and get his clothes on and head back to the night job. So, and that was 6 days a week he did that at Von Hoffman Press. And then the rental property stuff was 24/7, as you probably are aware. He owned a trailer park out in Apache Flats, and there's about 60 units out there, and they're not the most ideal tenants you could ever have, but you got to take care of your stuff.
So were you mad at him growing up? Is that why you guys didn't have a relationship, because he was never there?
So he worked that schedule pretty much all the way up until I got to be like a freshman in high school. So everything before that, our mom took us everywhere. Our mom picked us up. Mom made us dinner. Mom. And she still worked a full-time job too over at the Truman Building. So I mean, she was a busy woman too. But whenever I got to freshman in high school, my dad quit the Von Hoffman job and was just doing the rental properties. And now all of a sudden he's around all the time and he's present. He's wanting to make suggestions and recommendations and critiquing me on this, that, and the other thing when, the way I took it, and not saying it's right or wrong, it's just how I perceived it was.
At the time when you were young.
Yeah, I said, my thought was, what do you don't get to just come back in my life now all of a sudden and start being present and all this stuff when you were never around, whenever we were going through the, the early phases of it. But again, that's a young 13-year-old adolescent that doesn't know what he's doing or talking about. So, but that's just, as a kid, you don't always fully understand the story of what's actually happening.
Because now you realize, oh, that's what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean,
he was providing, making sure, like, our parents had it. The baby boomers, the reason they all have the similar symptoms is because, like, they had it tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, they started with nothing. Absolutely nothing. And, my dad always claims, and I disagree with this statement, but he always claims he's not a smart person, but he knows how to work, and that can provide just as well as, having an 8 to 5, financial job where you're not getting your hands dirty or doing, back-breaking type work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he is one of the smartest people I know when it comes to, he can fix stuff, he can analyze things, and if he, walks up to it and can't figure it out, he'll walk off and he'll have lunch, but you'll see his brain just spinning the whole time, and he'll get done and he'll have an idea, and he'll go get some tools, come back, and bada bing, bada boom, it's working. So I don't have the first idea of how to do any of that stuff. I mean, a rough estimate just because I've watched him do a lot of it, but it wouldn't have been my idea to know how to fix it like this or know how to do it like that. But I learned a lot of valuable lessons by being around the rental property stuff and us fixing our own stuff because, he always said you don't make money when you're paying people to fix things that you can fix yourself. That's part of what you signed up for when you're in the rental property business or just property management. So that's why I know how to do basic things. I can do some basic plumbing, some basic electrical work, drywall, I can do basic stuff, but when it comes to anything complex, I got to call an expert in, and that's usually him first. And then it gets to that point where I got to be 21, 22 and started getting in the real world working. And then, you see how hard it is to earn an honest dollar, and you're like, oh, okay. So then it starts clicking like, that's what he was doing all this time. He was doing whatever he had to do to make sure we didn't want for anything, and provided the best life he could for us. And we had a very good life. I mean, there wasn't anything that we didn't have that we needed to survive or to flourish. So
I love how you say your dad doesn't think he's that smart. But Dad, if you're watching this episode, he just called you an expert.
In a lot of areas.
That's what he sees you as.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I have proof is when you have 6 different toolboxes that are plumb full of tools, and each one's got a different heading for it: electrical, plumbing, general tools, socket. When you got that many different toolboxes of stuff, like,
man knows something.
And he knows the name for all of them. I'd be the kid while he's working on a bathroom or something, like, go grab me a whatever tool that I had no clue what it was, but I knew we were in the bathroom, so I'm like, all right, probably plumbing. So grab a whole handful of tools and come back like, are any of these that?
I needed a flashlight, man.
To which he would usually get frustrated and just go do it himself. But as an 8-year-old, I don't have a good tool vocabulary.
And us as parents now, like, all right, let's YouTube it, see how it's done.
Yeah, well, and he tells that story all the time because he's like, look, there wasn't any YouTube back then, like, because with the printing press that he worked on at Von Hoffman, if that thing broke, like, they were expected to fix it on, like, you're messing up production.
We got to keep this line going.
We got to get it fixed and get it going, which is why a lot of the times, even on the 12-hour shifts, he'd come home with his lunchbox, not a single thing eaten out of it. And that was a lot,
And us as young boys, young men, teenagers, we got to see a provider.
Yeah.
And then shout out to all the dads who have
absolutely
provided, but also the moms that have acted like fathers that were providers. It doesn't just, it's really cool when when the kids realize that both are providers.
Yeah.
Because my dad he worked in LA County, Southern California, 4:30 in the morning to 4:30, right? Whatever it was. But I had to wait for him to go to soccer practice. So that was our time, and that was our getaway, soccer practice. My mom worked from 5 to 3 and then from 4 to 11. So I remember us pulling up outside the nursing homes where she worked at. We'd bring her dinner. So we're having fast food outside of dinner, but we were still all together as a family.
Yeah, as a family, that's awesome.
But we wouldn't see my mom till whenever she got at night. And I knew that when the Avon ordered, remember Avon? That kind of ages us.
Yeah.
Back to the Avon days. The Avon order would get dropped off at home. My mom would come home after work, here to start bagging stuff up individually. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, like, why is she doing this? But now it's like, my mom was an entrepreneur from back in the day.
She was grinding, dude.
Yeah, and my dad would come home so stressed, like the house had to be spotless. Until this day, now my kids are realizing, like, when I come home, my triggers back to that is like,
a messy house.
You guys been here all day long. I've been over here doing things that you'll never understand. Why is that speckle of da-da-da in the kitchen? Why is there clothes in the living room? Da-da-da-da-da and all that stuff. But now it's like, I come to a home, everybody's under the roof. All right, now I'm present, let's go. On to the next thing.
Yeah. And where did your dad grow up?
My dad grew up in El Salvador, third world country. One of the cool stories is that I heard from him was he didn't have his first real pair of shoes till he was 17, which he got a soccer scholarship to play in San Francisco. And I don't know, he was always into soccer, he was always into soccer, but somehow he ended up in San Francisco for college. So he got to see the 60s, San Francisco in the 60s.
Right.
And he had some cool stories. Yeah. Peace to all the OGs in San Francisco. But it changed his life, and came back to El Salvador, turned into professional networking with the soccer team and all that. And I was just trying to do the math. In 1990 is when he brought our whole family here. We were having researched El Salvador, the deadliest country in the world at that time, or even after. We were having our civil war during that time, so we were allowed to leave the country with asylum. So they did all the paperwork. My mom came up here first for 6 months without us. Imagine you're leaving your family in another country. Comes out here to get us started. My dad's in charge of us down there while we're in martial law, where we have curfews. There's soldiers shooting on our rooftop. Our families would gather together, and we'd all hide in the bathroom because this might be the last time we're ever together. You never know if you're going to wake up dead or alive. Those are memories that I have. But I remember my dad had to ship us to Guatemala. He put us in an Amazon box and shipped us out. We went to Guatemala to our other cousins that live in Guatemala to be safer, to at least stay alive. So during that time, we're in Guatemala with me and Linda. My dad's over here still working. My mom's in the United States, alone, crying every night, just working, missing her family. 6 months go by. We finally are able to leave El Salvador, one-way ticket to Los Angeles. And that's where we finally all met. So I think my dad was 40, about to be 41 that year. So he was the age I am now.
Man.
One-way ticket to come to the United States, with his kids.
Have you ever put yourself in that situation?
No.
Like if it was like, roles reversed? And
I try to think about it all the time and just go to a new country and leave, start over. But of course, anything is better than when we were at.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a lot to unpack there. So first off, did you sprinkle in there that your dad was a professional soccer player?
No, he was, after getting a scholarship in San Francisco, he became pretty big time in El Salvador, small country, but... Posters, but I don't know if he was on any posters. But he ended up representing a soccer team. He was the marketing director for it, and Linda was the princess for the soccer team. I was the mascot, so we were always present with the team in the stadiums, and soccer was our life.
Yeah.
Well, till the day he died, he listened and watched soccer.
Well, $1 million question: what was the mascot?
A bald eagle.
Oh, so you were
Los Águilas, yeah. Club Deportivo Atlético, no. It's the Águilas, yeah, the Eagles. And it's a bald eagle on the logo, and when we go visit now, like I'm buying all the jerseys and all that stuff.
That was an indicator of where you guys were heading.
Yeah, so that I see the bald eagle. Every time I see the bald eagle, that's him. That's just my way of having peace with, he's still watching over me. Yeah, and
Goosebumps, dude, that's an awesome story.
We see him, I see him daily, so thank you, Dad, for checking in all the time, and that's the way I cope with that. But yeah, 41, moved the whole family here, and then to live in the United States, to the American dream. And his 3 wishes, my father's, well, he had a couple main wishes. His first one was to see me and Linda graduate from college, to buy a brand new car. And he did get his, I think it was like a 2016 Honda Accord that he bought. He leased it, brand new, 2 miles on it, drove it off the lot, bucket list check.
Yeah.
A big one was to see his grandkids. He wanted to be a grandpa at one point in his life. And the cherry on top was he wanted to help my mom have the dream of home ownership. And they bought the house in July. He passed away in December, June. We got to enjoy it for that 6 months, and it felt like he's still living there.
Yeah.
His presence is still there. So woo.
Man,
that's
a lot, dude.
But he was the rock. My mom was they were both the rocks. We couldn't have done it without him.
What was that like being in Guatemala? What was that like Just you, so just you and Linda? Were you with?
Yeah, so I
did you
was
have
6
did
years
you have,
old.
like cousins you were
Yeah,
staying
yeah,
with,
yeah.
or-
My uncle lived there, so we
Okay.
were living with
I
them.
didn't know who you were.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, just
one of his
went
brothers
day,
was
just,
there.
We'll find you later. Type of thing. Like,
Yeah,
just get on the train.
yeah.
Just stop, get off when it says Guatemala.
Anything's better than here.
Yeah.
No, but we went to it was family, my
Okay,
uncle. I was 6, so maybe Linda was, well, I won't say Linda's age.
Yeah,
Linda was older.
Don't do that. If she was younger, that'd
You're
be
trying to
fine.
give me in trouble.
No.
Love you, Linda.
Love you, Linda.
I was 6 years old, or maybe 5, because then I turned 6, and then I was 7 by the time we came to the United States. And side note, I didn't speak English in 1990 when we came. My dad spoke a little bit. Linda was, the school we went to a really good school in El Salvador. So Linda knew some English, but that summer we went to summer school, ESL classes, and I was supposed to start 2nd grade. I got held back because I didn't know full English. I got held back in 1st grade, and then boom. So my schooling was 1st grade till to this day. I'm still going to school.
Wow. Do you still have? Was that time in El Salvador when martial law was going on? Did that take time to like process, or was it just one of those things where it all happened so fast from El Salvador, or your mom leave or going to LA, and then you guys going to Guatemala, and then your dad coming up later? Like, did it just all happen so fast, or did those like moments where you're in the bathroom all huddled up? Do those still come back and like?
Yeah, so that boils down.
You, or how's that?
So my earliest memories was I do remember one of the homes we lived at, but my earliest memories was the earthquakes. We get some serious earthquakes down there. So I remember one of my earliest memories is running through the house, and my mom would have these granite eggs, and I remember running through that living room and they were all falling. So I do remember that house. And then I just remember going to see the damage downtown of what had fallen, the buildings that had fallen because of earthquakes. Then I just remember good times of soccer. Everything was soccer. Everything was family. Christmas, fireworks. Christmas, unbelievable back then.
Really?
Back then, fireworks. Then there were gunshots. But we were always family, always together. The span of what we remember from the war, I just remember at nighttime we could look out the window and just see helicopters flying, just shooting like the bullets, the lights,
Yeah, the traces.
And then I remember the water pump, the water tank the truck would drive up. Everybody would have to make a line at the top of the hill, and you just bring whatever buckets you can and fill with water, because you probably won't have water for the rest of the week.
Wow.
Kids, I do remember our neighbors across the street, fun guys. Linda remembers their name, but they would come with shampoo and soap. So whatever water was being spilled, they're just down there showering. And we didn't even live in the dirt part of third world country, the jungle part of our third world country. My parents had us in the city, San Salvador, one of those areas. But that time happened so fast. I remember school, kindergarten, and then I think it must have been a summer that we went to Guatemala, and then we came back. I'm sure Linda has a better recollection of that timeline.
Yeah.
But I do remember, to this day, shout out to my Marine friends or everybody has served with the PTSD. Me and Stacy just discovered this this year I think it was, that she can't wake me up. If I'm in a dead sleep, she can't wake me up, because I started remembering that's what would wake us up. Like, hey, get up, we gotta go. So, all right, being woken up from your sleep because we gotta go all hide or protect ourselves because the war is going on right outside on our roofs. So we discovered that, because I do freak out if I'm in a deep sleep and I just get woken up and I just freak out, and it's trauma from war, PTSD. It was emergencies. You're getting woken up in the middle of the night for an emergency. So still to this day, and I'm 42 years old now.
And you said you guys discovered this just last year?
I think it was this year.
Or roughly?
Yeah, because I'm like, why don't? Because we fall asleep on the couch, whatever show she's watching. We fall asleep on the couch, and then she leaves, and it'll be like 1:30, 2:30. I wake up on the couch, she's like, she freaking left me again. She didn't wake me up. She didn't want me to go sleep with her.
She didn't want you.
She didn't want me in the bed.
She didn't want you to go full crazy on her.
So she was like, "Well, you freak out every time I wake you up," and somehow we started tracking it back to that, and it was like, why do I freak out? It was because what's wrong?
Anytime you're ever woken up that way as a child, that was an indicator that we're in danger close.
Danger mode. So till this day,
dude, that just goes to show there's a lot of, I mean, that's how like childhood trauma can just kind of mask itself, and you don't see
we're talking about decades
you don't
later.
see it in your daily life, but like when you're asleep or when you're, being woken up abruptly or just.
We've always wondered why I just freak out in like danger mode or whatever. So we're getting better at it. She just leaves me on the couch now. Or we go to bed at a decent time so we can just fall asleep.
Head starts bobbing.
Yeah.
I'm making.
Because as soon as she touches me, she's out.
I'm making the plunge.
Oh yeah, so that's childhood stuff. What our parents had to go through.
Yeah.
And then he was so present for soccer. Still not. He was always my coach. Yelled the most was expected out of me. So back to trauma. I don't want to coach Jacob because I don't want to yell at him. But now I understand. Like now I know how to coach differently.
Yeah.
That was just my dad's style because the coaches he saw growing up, like they were vocal.
They were hard on him. And
they were vocal. But were we champions? Were we undefeated? Was I captain all the time? Huge role in leadership. Of me help him expecting the most out of me. Because we watched soccer daily, we knew soccer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's just go to show you guys, like whether you're, we're talking about our parents or whether you're a current dad now with kids, like give yourself some grace sometimes because there's no. Did they give you and Stacy a handbook when you guys had your first?
Oh, YouTube.
Here's a child.
They talked to ChatGPT and ChatGPT put it down for him.
Be a parent 101. You know what I mean? Like there's no study guide for how to be a good parent. It's just, a lot of trial and error. And, I think one of the hard things I see just from struggling, dads or just parents in general nowadays, just from my friends that have kids, is just the buildup of stress with work and being able to decompress that before you go home and then still being stressed and then you're snappy at the kids. And it's such a hard thing, and I think the big thing that I like seeing, or at least hearing from my friends that have, that have kids, especially more males than the females, but like my close friends, is they recognize when they do that, when they know that wasn't right, and they'll grab the son and they'll bring him in the room and put him on the knee, and I'm really, Dad's sorry. He just, he's got a lot going on with work, and he, this wasn't directed at you. It was just, I got a lot going on, and I think that was the difference between like this generation and last generation is that there wasn't that room for like softness in their lives. They loved us, but they had a different way of
showing. And again, it was the generation before them.
Yeah, and they it's not saying they don't love us, but they have a different way of expressing their love. They're not into the hug and I love you, son, and I love you, son. Like, just it's not how they were brought up.
Yeah, my dad was a big hugger. When I met Stacy's family, they're like,
he's all up in there.
Yeah, like that's their hug. Like,
no, hey, up top, man.
Bam! Like I get a pat. I was like, ow! Like, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Let's hug it out.
Yeah. No, I mean I have all the respect in the world for my parents and my dad especially. He, knowing what he's done, what he was willing to do to provide. When all the odds were against him. He struggled with a lot of stuff going through that. Most of the time he was sleep deprived and just to a point of exhaustion that, repeat that cycle for 20 years and, I don't know how he does it to this day or how he did it to this day, but, like I said, he kind of put his body on the line in terms of being able to do that. And now he's, body's pretty broken down. He's got a terrible back. He's got all the, the rods in the back. Jeez. And he's got knee replacements and, hip issues and just, but he was willing to do whatever it took to provide.
And you guys live pretty close together now?
No, my parents live out at the farm, so they're out in like California, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not too far.
No, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're not in a different state or anything.
But no, my brother lives they're on the same street as me, so they're close. And then my dad and them just bought a farm out there. So
nice.
That's where I like going too. I mean, that's kind of my home away from home. I don't get very good cell phone service out there, and I'm okay with that. And just allows me to kind of unplug and just enjoy nature.
And be present with your parents.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is he's always got something he's working on.
Yeah.
So we can always go cut wood, stack wood, work on the pond. I mean, there's there's so much stuff to do. So I mean, there's been some times where I've gotten to learn how to drive his tractor. I have no business being in one of those things with all the buttons and all the capabilities it's doing, but at some point I'm going to need to learn how to do this stuff. So it's just fun getting to do those things with him, having that bonding time that we didn't always have or I didn't appreciate whenever I was younger, because, like I mentioned earlier, I know this time's going to be limited, so I want to get as much time with him as I can, try and soak it up.
And to the current parents, like you said, was there a book of how to do perfect parenting? Our kids don't listen to us. They just see us. The same thing we did growing up. We saw our parents' behavior. This is what's helping me and Stacy now is they don't hear us. They don't listen to us.
Yeah.
But they do see how mom works out. They see how we all sit together. They see the things we do together, and this is how we love each other. So that's been freeing. And go do this, go clean this, go do that, go do this. Let's go do it together. Oh, your room ain't clean yet? Let's go do it together.
Yeah.
Can I help you? Because we want to set them an example, because you can see what the trajectory of what kids are learning now, and TikTok's apps of corporations are raising children, which that's scary in itself. So we try to break that mold by being present. There was a cool book I read with the Ron brothers. They raised 3 boys, and they all made it big time. But it was early in the book that it said the mom would lay with each kid 15 minutes. She'd give each of the boys 15 minutes before they went to bed. So now our 15 minutes might be shorter, but our order is the youngest one goes to bed first. Then we go to Jacob, and then Marley's hanging out with us. The last 15 minutes of the day, if we can bring them to peace, know that they're loved, here's your parents, I'm sure they'll remember that forever.
Yeah. No, that's, I think it's important, it's, again, kind of recognizing what our parents did and trying to do a little bit better, and not saying that
because they didn't know any better either.
No.
They were just trying.
Yeah, I remember when my brother and them, whenever him and his wife had their first, kid, it was like, and my brother finally gets to understand, like, oh my God, like, Dad, how did you guys do this? How in the heck did you guys manage? And, my dad just told me, he's like, well, Brian, we didn't have a choice. Like, you don't get to just take them back if you don't, it's not like a new pair of shoes you can take home and then you don't like them after the first day and, these aren't for me. I'd like my money back. Like, it's not how it works. So.
I still ask my mom, like, how did you guys pull it off?
Yeah.
My mom's religious, not too religious, but she's had faith throughout the years, and she thanks God. And
one thing that I hear a lot of high level people talk about, different podcasts or just different shows, is they talk about just how much that, and you can speak to this, just that moment of their first child being born. They all say the same thing. They're like, I can't explain to you, like, in words what it does to you as a man. When you witness that and you see that you've brought life, like, just something in the brain, just the chemistry in the brain changes to where, like, I will do anything for this child. Like, and I don't, like, and I can say that for sure with my parents. Like, they are the definition of unconditional love, because I have given them every reason to not love me. You know what I mean? And the fact that they have never given up on me, they may have had doubts, but if I was willing to try, they were willing to support me, and that's the good times, the bad times, a lot of bad times before the good times really started hitting, but, I don't know, maybe you can speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up, because it's something we're trying to teach Irie, or my firstborn. I keep putting it in her brain because they're teenagers. Girls are vicious.
Is she just newly teenager?
12, but she's been a teenager for like 3-4 years.
Going on 26.
Yeah, and it, again, no matter how you don't get along with your parents, or whatever you guys don't see eye to eye, those two people are your best friends. If one of them is not present or is not showing up, there's other reasons for that. It's not because of you. It's not personal. All the advice they have is correct. We were talking about business the other day, and parents they just want what's best for you. Yep. They do as I say, not as I did, because they didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. But your parents are truly the bestest friend you can ever have. Because hopefully, well, as long as they, I mean, it could go so many ways, right?
Yeah.
Because there are some parents that, again, the reason we have this, have mental health, they have other problems. It's not because of you, the kid, and children do suffer around the world because of that. But if you can turn them into your best friends, you will never have a better friend.
Yeah.
My mom, I still call her for advice every morning. Every morning is my check-in to my mom. But I still remember all the advice. My dad's only in one advice he gave me that has stuck with me, and I spoke about it last time. Take care of your kids. Love your kids. Take care of your kids. Because that's parenting. There is nothing else. A client of mine, I actually remember, he had a disabled kid that I was like, my God, what do you guys go through? You know, and shoulders get low and he just spills it. But he made a great point. He's like, once you have children, there's nothing else. Yeah. And I think that's the moment that you're describing, when they're there. And then they tell you it's a girl. And then he's like, all right, where's my gun? Where's the bullets? All right, I need an army of boys.
Where's my gun oil?
Fellas, all right, get your guns up. We got another girl. So the army just, the grid just grows. But you become the protector. Another friend said, the hardest part of being a parent is you won't be there for their toughest decision. You know, you won't be there for your children's toughest decision they'll ever have to make in their life, whatever it is. And that's something that'll keep you up at night. Yeah. You know, because I'm about to hand her over keys. They go to sleepovers, and we're picky on sleepovers. My dad he's like, I paid for rent for this house. I go to work for you to sleep here. Why you want to go sleep somewhere else? Okay. You know, that was my pressure that I was like, sorry, I can't go because I live over here and I have a bed that my dad.
If you want to convince Carne Asada OG, good luck.
Good luck. There was no change in his mind.
Yeah. Well, I never thought of it like that, but that, you know, I feel like it seems like with Spanish culture, especially, like it's a very tight family, like tight-knit family. Like, as a family, we will do this as a family, and it seems like that's one thing I wish, you know, the American culture would adopt a little bit more too. Is just, you know, not just, you know, hey, we've all got a TV at the kitchen now, we can just eat and watch TV and not talk. You know, because it seems like you guys you have a great way of communicating, and takes practice. Of every night we have dinner at this time, and there's no exceptions, and you know, if we're going out to do this and we're going to do it as a family, we're going to do all these things.
Well, even into new construction that's being built, there's no dining rooms. They're just eating kitchens and bars. When we were building our house, it was a spec house, but they're like, yeah, the boys eat on the island anyway, so we're making the island bigger. But we want a big dining table. It's like, oh, well, no, we're just planning on an eat-in kitchen. Yeah. It's like, all right, we'll expend it later for that. But even to this day, houses they're taking that out of the real estate, you know?
Absolutely. Well, and just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, not that this is coming from my experience because I'm not a father, but I mean,
yeah, you are, Carlos.
Talking about that parent thing, like if you guys could hear some of the parents in AA meetings talk about their children and how much they love them and how much they have screwed up in their life, every parent loves their kid. So if they're not present, whether it be work, alcoholic, whatever it might be, they have something that they're dealing with. And it's not saying that's an excuse, but there's a reason why. And it's not because of you as the child. Like, you're not the reason why. They are trying to figure out something they've got going on. And, you know, there's not a single time that people talk about that stuff with their kids and how their kids don't want anything to do with them because of how they were. And, you know, and I get that, you know, you got to, you have to earn trust back. And when you erode all of your trust and your words don't hold any weight, that takes, you know, everybody's different, but it takes time to earn that trust back. And I can say that from like a reverse standpoint of, you know, when I went to rehab, my parents gave me the choice before I went, like, look, you can either go to rehab and try and get your life figured out, or we're done with you. Like, we are officially done. We're not doing this anymore. We're not waiting for that phone call that you're dead. Like, it's because it's coming. Like, we just don't know when. So I told them, I said, look, and at this point I'd already had my epiphany. I'd already knew what I needed to do to move on and was very grateful that God intervened and helped with that. But I told them, like, look, I know that there's nothing that I can tell you guys that you guys can believe or trust. And I understand that now. You know, I have lied to you guys to the point where I have no more lies to tell you. Like, I've used them all. So I said, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start doing the work. And when you guys think that I've made some progress, you can either tell me, but I'm not going to be promising you anything anymore, because I've lied to you too many times. I've given you too many false, empty promises. And me as a son, I got to earn that back from my parents, you know? So, I mean, I put them through the ringer and, you know, tested every bit of will and love and unconditional love that they had. But, you know, it took work for me to regain that. So, but yeah, just to circle back like that, every parent I hear in AA that's, you know, that is either estranged from their kids or their kids want nothing to do with them or whatever, like, those parents all love their kids. There's not a single one that does not, you know? So, you know, if you've had to deal with an alcoholic parent or something like that, I hope you're listening. I hope you take this to heart, because this is not me just making this stuff up. These are people that I see day in and day out at meetings that this is their words. You know, this is coming from their heart and their soul. And these are sober people now. You know, not the alcoholic that you might remember, the liar that you remember that was drunk all the time or abusive or whatever. So. You know, like I said, you got to give yourself a little bit of grace sometimes, but that's a two-way street. You know, you can give grace or you can get grace, you know, but just remember, if you're not giving grace, don't be expecting to get any grace. You know, it's a two-way street.
And I think it could be, bro, it doesn't have to, that family tradition, you know, it doesn't have to keep
you can be
going
the
that way.
You
Yeah,
can
be the change.
Don't wait for someone else to do it for you. Just do it, you know, but again, that doesn't always go along with the narrative or what society expects or what everybody's encouraging you to do. The friends or the so-called friends or the people that think they're giving good advice, like, our path is our path. Mine's different from yours is different from mine, but you know, we're both aiming for the same end goal, you know, the top of that mountain, but how we get there is a totally different story, you know. But
and me and Stacy almost have more fun with the kids, you know, because they're worry free. They're not broke. They haven't been broken yet. Or they don't have that experience. And my neighbor said today, I was like, don't call us old, because we're the same age. She's like, I'm old. No, we're experienced and we've gone through more things. And we're creatures of habit. And you can break the habit. They're watching you, and they're probably gonna mirror you. They are exactly gonna mirror you. Because my son's 9, and I'm like, why is he acting like me? Like, he's just 9, but he's just been watching. And Stacey's like, he is you, he is you. I was like, well, guess what? Your 2 daughters, they are you.
Well, and I
so
think too,
take that.
Like you said earlier, like, the kids, they're not listening, but they are watching.
They're gonna mirror exactly what you do.
They see your facial expressions. They see when you're upset, what you do when you're mad. If you're making a lot of hand gestures, like, they'll wind up doing the same stuff.
I ran into somebody at a party. I think this was one of the podcasts that didn't record. He was like, dude, I haven't seen you in a while, but you look just like your dad. He's like, you're smiling just like your dad. And he only hung out with my dad like 2 or 3 times, because my dad drove that party bus, and he got to meet my dad on that. But it's great hearing that, to continue that energy and life that he gave everybody, you know, and he hugged everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and he worked at the Capitol one time. This is a funny story from my dad. Worked at the Capitol, and he was a hugger. My dad was a hugger, give you the best hugs. Him and Chris Wood were buds too, and Chris just loved, hug me, Jose, hug me. We see the governor at the time, and it's Parson. I think it was Parson. And he just grabs and hugs him. And then like a Secret Service is just like, oh, but Parson knew him by Jose, just happy guy, and they hugged it out, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Well, Jose, the OG can.
OG Cardasada knocked it out of the park, and it was just love. Yeah. You could tell when it was love, and he tried. It's been difficult for your parents. All their best friends are gone. They've lost their parents. Be their best friends. I heard a cool story. I ran into somebody yesterday. Her daughter was turning 21. And she's like, all right, we're going to Vegas. Who do you want to go? She's like, I just want you to go, Mom. So Mom, here, this is like her 5th child. Just the look on her face is like she just wanted to hang out with me for her 21st.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so all those years you thought you were doing bad or you weren't doing it perfectly, It didn't matter. So they still want you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man.
So are you guys doing anything for Father's Day?
Tomorrow I'm running in a race up in St. Charles. I'm running a half marathon, and then a buddy of mine that he's doing his first ever full marathon, so I'm going to run the half.
Oh,
with
call him out. You did last time.
Okay. All right, Josh Buffington.
Josh Buffington about to kill that.
No pressure, Josh.
Marathon time.
It's going to be viral. So the backstory to that, when I started training Josh's boys, we were doing 4:30 in the mornings, and this is before I had this space. This was at my house in the basement.
He was one of the first clients that showed up here.
Those were my first two. Yeah, at the basement of the Chin household. So the boys started working out, just needed discipline in their life. So that's what we were doing. We were teaching discipline and hard work. So that's what we did every morning, like 3 days a week. I think we did Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Josh got the itch to get back, in good physical condition. So he started jumping in on the workouts and kind of made that a new priority, not a new, but a more important priority in his life to get back in shape and be a good example for your kids. If you're sitting here telling them to do all this stuff and you're not doing any weights or you're not doing any of the hard stuff that I'm having the kids do, we need to be setting examples. So every now and again I'd call Josh and be like, all right, let's get these old boys in here and show the young dogs what's up. I was like, no, so, we had fun with that because we're not going to lose to these. I think at the time they were like 13 and 14, or they were in high school yet. But they were tough athletes. But anyways, it would be fun because the kids are involved with their dad, and it's doing it in a fun way instead of just dad's the coach, because that's how they grew up. Was Josh was their coach, so dad/coach. But the coach also has to be the discipline guy, So it was good getting to do that. But while we started doing that, I was running a bunch. Josh wanted to run, but he's, my knees, and I just, I was like, you're just going to have to either push through it or you're going to have to find something else. I don't know what to tell you. There's pain, but if there's no actual pain or there's nothing wrong, it's just pain. That's just letting you know you're alive. So he got the wild hair. He's like 6 months. He gave himself 6 months. Like, I'm going to run a half marathon on February, whatever it was. We'll say February 10th. So this is before I had any plans of doing anything. So fast forward to the month of February. That was the same month that I did my 20-mile-a-day challenge. So I was on like day 10 of that, where I was running 20 miles a day. So I met Josh out at the Katy Trail. Well, I told everybody, and if you haven't heard it before, like that month of February was so miserable with weather. Like our town shut down like 10 days of that month. Just businesses closed. You couldn't do anything. So we went out to Katy Trail like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and we ran that 13 miles. He's like, you're going to run it with me? I was like, dude, I got to do 20 today. I was like, I'm going to just do 13 with you because it's boring,
Yeah,
running
let's knock it out.
So he was like, oh my gosh. It's like, I'm not doing you any favors. I'm doing myself a favor by running alongside somebody for the first 13. And then I got 7 more after that. But anyway, so we ran on the Katy Trail. There was an inch sheet of ice on the entire trail. So if you haven't ran before, like just imagine walking on just a sheet of ice.
At the skating rink,
13 miles for your first time, and that being the course that we did. And granted, it was flat, but every foot you had to, we were very sure-footed.
You needed spikes, man.
No, we didn't have any spikes, so we just white-knuckled it. But we got it done, and I told him after we finished, I was like, let me tell you something. I was like, we may not have broken any land speed records today, but if you can run 13 miles in this weather, you can run a 13.1 miles anywhere. Like it was super stressful just in foot placement of every step for 13 miles. So shout out to Josh. He's got his first full marathon this weekend.
But he's been part of Cap City race. He started like 5K, 10K. He did the half marathon this year, which was about a month ago. So he asked me after the half marathon of my race, hey, I got this race either in June, the full marathon, or there's one in like fall, August or October. He's like, what do you think I should do? I was like, well, I can't tell you what to do, but what I would do is, look, you've already done the first part of marathon training by training for my race. You're up to you're up to halfway point. I was like, just unless you're injured or you have some nagging injuries going on, put that pedal to the floor and just keep that momentum going, because if you don't, you're going to have to take a break at some point from your training program. And then when you get back on it, guess what?
if you're looking at August or October, you're going to be running in 95 degree plus 150% humidity every single day. And that's not fun at all. So just take these rainy June
Here we
days
go, yeah.
and let's just roll with it. So that's what we're doing. So
And that's such a cool story because it's a 4-year journey.
Yeah.
Here he is now running a full.
Yeah, he told me about it and he said, all right, well, I'm going to sign up. I got to hang up. I'm going to go sign up for this. I'm going to go sign up for this
Committed,
junior marathon. So I got my
nice.
feet to the fire. So I texted him a couple weeks ago and I said, hey, so first full marathon. I was like, who was with you on your first half? He said, Chinny was. I said, well, guess who's going to be with you on your first full?
Whoa.
He's like, are you running the full? I was like, that I am not. I said, however, I will run the half with you and I'll be your cheerleader for the second half. But it'll be a good course. Most of it's on the Katy Trail, and then there's a little bit of road work, but it's going to be pretty flat. So good first course for him to try.
Good luck to you guys and represent.
Good luck, JB.
Yeah.
But yeah, this will be my first race back since my race got done. I'm finally got my head above water. I need to get my shit in gear in terms of my running credentials. I need to get those numbers back up. But I have successfully done that every day this week, and am very ready and very excited for this weekend.
And then do you get to see your dad, hang out with your dad on Sunday?
So that's Saturday, yep. And then, so my brother's going to watch Carlos, my dog, on Saturday till we get back. And then Sunday, we're probably going to go out to the farm.
Yeah.
Just me and Carlos. And
be together.
muddy or wet or whatever, we're going to do it. So.
And don't wait till Father's Day to celebrate fathers.
Yeah.
They would rather do it any other day of the year than actual Father's Day. Like, Father's Day is just like, all right, just leave me alone.
Yeah. Well, we went out last Saturday for belated Mother's Day with my mom and my sister-in-law. And then we did an early Father's Day for my brother and my dad.
Yeah.
And then my sister-in-law's birthday is in June. My sobriety birthday is coming up on the 18th.
In June?
So, yeah. So we just had one big family dinner. We went to Domenico's, which we hadn't been in a while, and it was delicious. We all got to hang out, and it's just good getting everybody together. It just doesn't happen enough, you know?
And side note, Matt ate some carbs.
I did, yes. Angel
Cheater.
hair, pasta.
Cheater.
With
People, we need to
shrimp.
hold him accountable.
I did have a
He's
salad.
carb loading.
I did have a salad before. I was actually the only one at the table to get a salad. So I felt
Soda?
pretty good about that. No, unsweet iced tea.
Bam, there you have
With
it.
some lemon.
That's how you get abs of
Where I
steel.
sacrificed one, I had carbs, so I can't have a Coke.
No, I think that's we could go on for hours, but enjoy your fathers while you have them. Mothers that are fathers also, thank you for what you do. You don't have to be a perfect parent. Hold your kids, love your kids. That's all they need.
Yeah, and guys out there, or fathers out there, tell your kids you love them. There's nothing insensitive or weak or whatever you want to call it. Tell your kids that you love them, please, because me and my dad's relationship was very estranged, and then we got to a point where we could say that, and ever since that point happened, like, our relationship has been nothing but great, you know? So,
Incredible.
and don't, as the father, be the bigger man and tell your kid you love them. Don't expect for them to always say it to you, you know, because there might be times where they're not, but they also aren't fully developed brains that are working as they do when we're adults, you know?
And to add to that one, that's incredible advice. To add to that one, let them know you're proud of them just because they made it that far. Your sons, let them know you're proud of them, that they're still trying. You know, even if they'll never make it to whatever level you're at or whatever as a father, or just let them know you're proud of them. Because some men, they grow up to be fathers till this day have never heard their dad say I love you or say you're proud of them.
Yeah.
You know you are, so might as well just say it.
Yeah, there's nothing to hide. There's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, you know you love them, you know you're proud of them. So happy Father's Day weekend. I hope Carlos spoils you.
No, I don't
He
think
spoils you every day.
Yeah, I get
He gives
spoiled
you a
every
Father's Day
yeah,
every
we won't
day.
do anything special on Father's Day, I promise. It'll be the same old.
Happy Father's Day. Thank you for watching
Until next time,
the Not So Perfect podcast.
peace.
Carne asada.